So to me, that's one of the most egregious secrets you ask your child to keep, because an attorney may tell you, don't inform the other parent that we're going to file this.
Hey, this is Diane Dirks.
And I'm Rick Voiles.
We've been working with co-parents in conflict for more than 2 decades. We've taught classes, written books, counseled parents, empathized and agonized a few times to help people make sense of their complicated families.
We were talking one day, and it occurred to us that helping the most difficult cases comes down to one simple concept. Is one parent willing to let go of the tug-of-war rope, or is it worth it to hold on and fight?
So we invite you to take this journey with us each episode as we tackle the questions, should you hold on or let it go?
Welcome to Co-Parent Dilemmas, where we give you practical solutions to those impossible co-parents. Hi, Diane.
Hi, Rick. How are you?
I am doing well. Yeah, it's been a busy day. I've already had several meetings, and I got a few more tonight, so it's busy.
Good. I've had family in my house all weekend, so you know how that goes.
Ooh.
Trying to get things back to normal again. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Normal's hard.
Yeah.
Normal's hard to keep.
I know. So I want to let our listeners know that, up to this point, in order to attend our Hump Day Wednesday help group, you had to be a non-impossible VIP on Patreon.
Right.
And so I thought maybe it would be a good idea to allow our free Patreon members to at least try our Wednesday Hump Day help group. And maybe that would encourage them to want to become a VIP. So for the first 2 Wednesdays in March, I'm going to send the link to anyone who creates a free Patreon membership.
All right.
And all you have to do is go to patreon.com/CP Dilemmas and sign up as a free member, and you will get a link the first 2 Wednesdays in March to attend our Hump Day help group. I just want more people to be aware and to be able to take part. And then if you like it, you might want to maintain a VIP membership. So
definitely. Yep.
Yeah. So that's some good news. I also have a good news story to share today.
Oh, good.
So this is, but let me ask this question first. Have you ever had somebody pay for your lunch or dinner at a restaurant besides your wife or your relative?
No.
Never?
No.
Okay.
A stranger, you mean? Just
yes.
voluntarily?
Yes.
No, I've never had that.
I know my parents told me that on their anniversary one time, that must have been like their 50th or 60th wedding anniversary. They went to a restaurant and told the waiter that it was their whatever anniversary, and the couple next to them overheard, and at the end of the dinner paid for their dinner and said happy anniversary. It was really sweet.
Nice.
So this story is similar to that. This is a father in Fort Worth, Texas, was left in tears after a stranger paid for his family's breakfast and wrote a heartfelt message on the receipt. The 41-year-old was enjoying a morning out for breakfast when his wife and 3 children at Mimi's Cafe when he earned the shout-out from a secret admirer. As they were getting ready to pay, the waitress unexpectedly told him that their $85 bill had already been settled. She handed him the receipt, and he was stunned to find a handwritten note on the bill which said, "Thank you for being a great dad."
Wow.
And so apparently this person watching him with his kids was so impressed with how he was dealing with his children or being a dad that he decided it was worth it. And he said, "From a dad to another dad, thank you for being the dad they need you to be, regardless of who's watching. We need more men like you. Thank you for letting us all see your love for them all."
Oh, that's validating.
Yeah, I thought that was a great story. So maybe there's a reason no one's ever paid for your dinner, Rick.
I'm sure there is. My kids were rowdy.
Or you need to treat your wife better when you take her out to dinner and impress somebody.
That wouldn't hurt anybody at all if I did that.
Yeah. So today we're going to answer a question from Rachel. And this is about secret keeping. And, we may have mentioned this before a time or two on the show, but I'm not sure that we've ever done a whole show on secret keeping, have we?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought this was a good intro to doing a show like that. She says, Diane and Rick, recently I asked my kids, who are 10 and 12, what they were planning to do with their dads in an upcoming visit, since it's a question I often ask just to make conversation. Usually they say something like, nothing special, or we're going to visit our grandmother, something along those lines. This time they became very awkward and quiet when I asked, so I knew something was up. Later on, when I was saying goodnight to my 10-year-old, I mentioned that they acted strange when I had asked about their plans. I told them that they could tell me anything and I wouldn't tell their dad. He became unglued and said that their dad and his girlfriend were planning to get married, but told the kids not to tell me. He made me promise that I wouldn't tell, which I said I wouldn't. He also revealed that they were going to travel to the beach for the wedding, and they were told not to tell me because your mom will be upset. I have to say I was speechless and struggled with how to respond. I took a deep breath and said, I'm really glad you told me. I'm not upset that your dad is getting married, but I am upset that he told you to keep it from me and expected you to lie about your plans this weekend. That's not okay. Both kids seemed much better the next day, and I avoided the subject with them. Should I say anything to my co-parent about this or just wait for him to tell me? Why would he ask the kids to keep this a secret, which only teaches them to lie?
Wow.
Yeah. Have we heard this before?
Oh, yeah. The whole married thing. Yeah. Married. Yeah. Only difference is he actually picked his weekend to get married.
Yeah. That was smart
nice
of him. That was very nice of him.
Yeah.
So, number one, let's say, get this out of the way. No, do not tell dad. Why should you not tell dad?
No. Well, my smart aleck side started kicking in because I'm thinking, well, there's no way he's going to be able to keep this a secret forever. I mean, it's going to come out. And when it does, she's going to really have a chance to go, what? Right? And react if she really wanted to. Why didn't you tell me? Blah, blah, blah. I was going to give you a big gift, but now, it's too late. She could do stuff like that rather than, that's my smart aleck side. But my practical professional side, let's see. No, don't tell him because it's not going to make any difference in the world.
Well, don't tell him because you promised not to tell.
Well, that's true.
Right.
That's true. Oh, yeah. Go the moral side.
Well, she said to her child, you can tell me anything. I won't tell your dad. And then the child made her promise not to tell dad.
Sure.
So it wouldn't be helpful for her in her relationship with her child to tell dad because then he'll never tell her anything again, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
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 So this goes back to us teaching parents. You always want to create a relationship with your child that makes them comfortable. They can tell you anything, right? Yeah. And, of course, if they told you something that was really abusive, you would then have to say, okay, I might have to tell somebody, but that's rare.
Right.
Most of the time,
issue. Yes.
Right. Most of the time you don't need to tell. So, Rachel, you're correct. You shouldn't, or to answer your question, you should not tell.
Yep.
The other parent. And yes, you should wait for him to tell you.
Yes.
But it is a little curious. What would be his motivation for him to say, don't tell your mom I'm getting married?
Well, I think this is a classic case of it's not mom, it's the mom in his head that he's reacting to. Right? I mean, so, she's going to get all upset and then that's going to be a problem in my life and I don't want another problem in my life and it's just going to make things complicated. So let's just keep it a secret when in fact, it probably the real mom over there in relationship with the kids wouldn't affect her at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Possibly. Do you think it had anything to do with the travel to the beach?
I can't imagine why. It's his weekend. There would be no reason to keep that a secret.
Yeah. So I don't really understand why he would say, don't tell your mom. So part of me thinks there's more to the story.
Ooh.
And I don't know what that would be, but there's more to the story of why he wants to keep this a secret. So I don't know, Rachel, I don't know. I can't understand why he would say that, but I do know that this is a story we get a lot about a lot of things. So let's talk about it from that perspective. So the child comes home from mom's, and when dad says, "What did you do this weekend?" If mom has told them, don't tell your dad that my boyfriend slept over. Don't tell
Right.
your dad that we took you to the bar Friday night. Don't tell your dad that we
We're
watched a
smoking
rated R
marijuana over here.
movie.
Right.
Don't tell your dad. You know what I mean? There's lots of, don't tell your dad that you caught me smoking. Don't tell
Right.
your dad that I was drunk and throwing up on Saturday. You know, and our smart aleck answer to that usually is if there's something you don't want the child to tell the other parent, then don't expose your child to it.
Don't do it. Right.
Yeah. Don't tell your dad I'm whatever, fill in the blank. You know, I've heard things like, don't tell your mom we're moving.
Ooh.
Which feels
Yeah.
like the same thing. Don't tell your mom I'm getting married. Like, at what point
It's
are you
coming out.
gonna?
Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna come out. Now, in this case, maybe dad is getting married for a specific reason. She's pregnant. I don't know. Maybe he's getting married because there's a court case coming up and he thinks he'll fare better if he's married instead of single. But still, I don't understand why the children have to keep that a secret. So regardless of what the reason is, it's always a bad idea for kids to have to keep a secret, right?
It is.
Some of the other ways that we keep secrets is having a hidden agenda. So for instance, I'm really planning to have my 14-year-old sign a legal affidavit declaring that they want me to be their primary custodian rather than the other parent. So let's talk about that secret keeping. I'm going to have you sign a legal document that don't tell your mom.
Right. Yeah.
Well, what would be the motivation for something like that?
Well, and most of those would be examples related to a court case. And the word getting out or the word getting out prematurely could weaken my case or strengthen your case or allow you to prepare for your case. Yeah, I can't think of an agenda outside of benefiting my court case.
Right. So to me, that's one of the most egregious secrets you ask your child to keep, because an attorney may tell you, don't inform the other parent that we're going to file this, right?
Right.
Right. However, we know that an attorney is going to tell a 14-year-old, sign this paper and everything will be as you want it to be, right?
So the attorney's going to lie.
Well, I think they have good intentions, but we all know unless the other parent agrees with this change, there's going to be a court case. So the children usually are not informed that if you sign this affidavit saying that you would rather live with one parent over the other, they're usually not informed that the court is very slow. The wheels of justice move very slow. And even though they might sign it at 14, they could be 16 before it gets resolved. And in their minds, they're thinking, if I sign this paper, it's all, next week I've got what I want. Yep. And it's a very, very hard lesson for kids to learn. Another reason is, and I had a client once that this happened to, where she signed an affidavit. Her mom had it served on dad. It was a change of custody motion with the child signing an affidavit. And then mom took the kid on a cruise so that the child wouldn't be around when dad got served papers.
Oh, wow.
And do you know what happened to this kid on that cruise?
No.
She could think of nothing else, right?
Oh, the child, dad's reaction to getting the papers?
Yeah. She told me the whole time I was on vacation, all I could think of was that my dad's going to be mad at me. Mom told me not to say anything. I feel like I really should have told my dad.
Remember that cruise we went on? And they're going, no, I don't remember anything about the cruise because I was thinking about dad getting served papers the whole time.
Exactly. And so when it was all said and done, it really created a lot of animosity between mom and dad. The child felt really stuck in the middle. Child felt like, okay, now my dad's really mad at me. And all I really wanted was to spend a little extra time with my mom. But because the child didn't feel like she was able to say that to one of her parents.
Yeah.
Then she made some assumptions. Well, dad would never allow it, so I better not bring it up. So I'll just do this over here in secret. And then mom and the attorney supported that. Next thing you know, now she's on a cruise wondering what's going to happen. All hell's going to break loose when, I get back home and talk to dad. What would have been a better way, a less secretive way to do something like that?
Why keep it a secret? I mean, the cruise was trying to somehow protect the daughter from having to witness dad's upset, but
maybe mom didn't want to deal with dad's reaction either. I don't know. It just was very, very bad timing. But I mean, had mom gone to dad and said, our daughter would like to spend a little bit more time with me. Can we work something out? And if dad would have said, sure, and dad did tell me later, if they would have just come to him, he would have said, yeah, let's figure that out.
Instead of a court case.
Well, yeah. Is it possible? And maybe with some help that may take, I even said, I would have rather you talk to me as the child's therapist and said, hey, what's the best way to do this? And maybe I could have been a mediator of some sort in that case. But both I and the child and the dad were kind of blindsided by this whole thing of let's keep this a big secret and then deal with the fallout later. So I guess my point is that's just one more example of a secret that you think keeping the secret is going to be helpful, but it can create disaster.
It can. It can.
Right.
But I'm not sure I would have called and said, hey, Mom wanted to serve the papers. She didn't want to have a conversation with him. So
sure.
So that he might have been willing to work things out, but it sounds like mom wanted to make a statement about serving the papers.
So again, you can't control. You can't control what the other parent will do with it, but wouldn't it have been better for the daughter if the mom would have started by telling dad instead of asking the daughter to keep it a secret?
Yes,
even if dad
definitely.
overreacted, even if dad said no way, even if dad made a big deal out of it, it would have been out in the open.
Yep, that would have been better for the child.
The secret keeping. There's very few times that secret keeping or asking your child to keep a secret is helpful. And we'll talk about when it is, but I want to go over the reasons why again. Number one, she's exactly right, Rachel is, when she says it's encouraging my child to lie. Because if you're afraid of the response, you're going to think of a different response. Well, I better not tell mom that I watched the rated R movie at dad's. And so when mom just casually says, oh, what'd you do at dad's this weekend? You're going to get nervous as a child. And you're going to say, we watched Disney all weekend long. Even though that's not true, that's the response that the child feels is acceptable, correct?
Right.
So we don't want to encourage them to have to say something else. The parent receiving it needs to be adult enough to be able to take anything they say. Oh, we watched a rated R movie at dad's, and then decide from there what they should do with that, if anything, right?
If anything, yeah.
Yeah. And, sometimes kids will keep a secret on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want parents to understand that as well. the child may have a perception that a parent will overreact or yell at their other parent if they tell them something that they perceive won't be liked, such as in this particular situation, in Rachel's situation, is it possible that the child might decide on his or her own to not tell mom dad is getting married because I don't want to hurt mom's feelings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very easily.
So dad could say to the kids, oh, guess what? We're getting married. And the kids would be like, oh boy, mom's not going to like that too much. I better not tell mom. But then it's on dad to tell mom, right? So when you announce something like that, make sure you tell the kids. And oh, by the way, I will tell your mom.
Right.
You don't have to worry about that. So sometimes we leave things out of a conversation that could actually encourage the child to keep their own secret.
Yeah.
Trying to protect the other parent. So it's really important to let the kids know they don't have to keep the secret. Even if you're not telling them to keep a secret, you have to be aware that they might on their own think that they should, if it's something big, right?
Yeah.
You know, we were thinking about moving, and the child might think, oh boy, that's going to be a big thing. My dad might not like to hear that we're moving. You know, don't just tell the kids that. Say, but if we do, I will be the one to talk to your other parent about it so that you don't have to worry about it. So I think parents need to kind of get into the habit of understanding that kids might be tempted to keep their own secret. At which point it's not their job to be protective. It's not their job to parent the other parent in that way. Does that make sense?
It does. It does make sense.
Yeah.
So and you're going to see more of that at a particular age. Like in this case, a 10-year-old would be more prone to do that.
Sure.
I don't know if a 16-year-old would even think that through all the way.
Yeah. Well, it depends. Depends on the situation.
Right.
So what are some situations where you do need to keep a secret?
We'll be back after a quick break.
What's up, everyone? Steve here with the Balance of Gray podcast. It's a brand new podcast.
That's good news.
Funny news stories, serious topics, and spiritual growth.
Phenomenon is what it is.
I can promise this won't be quite like anything you've heard before in a Christian podcast. The Balance of Gray brings raw discussions that get to the root of some of the hardest questions. In every few episodes, we feature inspiring testimonies from those who have walked the walk. There's already a good lineup of episodes for you to dive into, so go check them out and tune in on Wednesdays for a great time and a bold twist on igniting your faith. You can find the Balance of Gray podcast on nearly every listening platform out there. Start listening now.
Pretty good, huh?
Well, if I'm filing a court case, I'm not going to want anybody to say that. But so here's she says, it's only teaching them to lie, which I think this is where we're headed, because I do want my children, lying's a skill.
Mm-hmm.
And I want them to know when and where to lie, to lie well when they do it.
What?
Yeah. Well, so for example,
who are you?
Because she says, all right, I don't want my kids being told to keep a secret because I don't want them to learn how to lie. But now she's telling them, I won't tell, I'll keep a secret. So does keeping a secret necessarily mean that you're lying if you're asked? The kids didn't lie to her. They just acted like they didn't want to answer. But is she keeping a secret now?
Yes, that's a good point.
So she better do it well, I'm thinking, if she's going to keep her word to her child.
So is that keeping a secret or is that keeping confidences?
What's the difference? Yeah.
There is a difference.
Yeah. Well, and I would say there would be occasions when I would want people to lie to me. And there would be occasions where I would lie to you or someone because I wouldn't want to hurt your feelings. So I would lie. I had this situation with a PC, and I often get this when I'm doing the PC questionnaire.
Mhm.
You know, and they've written out all the answers that they think they're supposed to say,
Yes.
right? And so why are you concerned about the future of well, I want my kids to learn honesty, and I want my kids to learn about the truth, and I want my kids to, and so I'll ask them, you know, do you want them to always tell the truth in every circumstance, in every situation? And I got this one situation, I asked the lady on the screen, do you think I'm ugly?
Okay.
She's not, even if she thinks I'm ugly, she's not going to say, yeah, you're ugly. She's going to lie to me. So I don't want my kids going around going in the grocery store, oh my gosh, that woman's fat. Now, a 3-year-old or a 7-year-old might say that out loud. Look at that fat lady. Shh.
Well, but now we're talking about the difference between a secret and a lie.
Okay,
They're
good.
two different things.
Yeah.
The secret keeping may lead to a lie, which is what we want to avoid in telling our kids that they should not keep a secret from their parents.
Yes.
So I'm making a distinction between, yes, there are times where you do keep confidences with your friends, with your children, but you don't, when you're a child, keep the confidences of your parent, because that's asking too much. They're not equipped. At some point, they're not going to be sure what they're allowed to share and what they're not allowed to share with their very own parent.
Yeah.
So they will stop sharing altogether, right? So my point here, this is about parenting.
All right. So,
The
yeah.
parent should never say to their child, you're not allowed to tell your other parent
Okay.
this information. Because what you're saying is there are some things that are off limits with your parent. And I'm saying that should never be. A child should be able to feel comfortable sharing everything and anything with their parent who is charged with parenting them. Now, you might say to the child, we don't need everybody in the neighborhood to know this particular thing. And I don't know about you, but I grew up with parents that way. This is our business and nobody else's business, right?
Right. Right.
But even that has its limits. Because if you grew up in an alcoholic home and you're told no one else should ever know the big alcoholic secret, what does that do to children?
Well, it just makes it horrible and perpetuates the whole situation that is fueling the addiction. Yeah.
It creates a lot of shame.
Yep.
So I guess my point is, if you are ever going to say to a young child, don't tell for whatever reason, it better be few and far between, and it better be well thought out.
So we're making a distinction then where she says it's teaching the children to lie. Mm-hmm. Teaching someone to keep a secret isn't necessarily the same thing as teaching them to lie.
Well, she's not. When Dad said, don't tell your mom we're getting married, he wasn't intending to teach them to lie. Correct. What I'm saying is the consequence of asking a young child to keep a secret from somebody else they love dearly is going to result in not telling the truth. And not only not telling the truth, but being in distress about it.
So tell me this. If Dad asks Mom, did one of the children tell you that we were getting married last weekend? What should Mom say?
Why would Dad ask that?
Because he suspects that it happened.
Okay. Then my answer would be, you're getting married?
That's not a lie.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
I wouldn't answer the question. And if he persisted and said, no, really, I need to know. And I'm like, I don't think that's even important. What's important is you're getting married and I'm really happy for you.
Yes, congratulations.
I would evade the question completely because, again, we're back to confidences and how important it is to keep those.
Yeah.
So are you still confused about what I'm saying about a lie and a secret?
No, I think here's what I'm hearing and why I don't think I'm confused, but I may be confused, and I'm confused about being confused. I don't know. Help me out here.
Okay.
Okay. So, a relationship with a parent is a primary relationship, and that should be one that is very much conditional on being open and being honest, right? I can't take care of you to the best of my ability and to your best needs if I don't know certain things. And so it's fundamental to build that trust and that connection between child and parent. To threaten that with asking them to keep a secret or to lie is much different than the social matrix that we live in. With it just doesn't carry the weight of the primariness of that relationship. So two different things.
I think so. I think that's what I'm saying. And I also think that it's important to understand that, yes, there are times when you're going to ask your kids to keep confidences about some family situation with regard to the outside world.
Yes. Yeah. So
but
that's an issue of
never to the other parent, because what you're kind of saying is you can tell me anything, but you can't tell the other parent anything, which is putting myself on a different footing than the other parent, which you may feel to be true, but that's still not fair to your child.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So when we're talking outside of the parent-child relationship, we're talking about boundaries, right? You don't want to just, tell everybody everything about yourself or about the family. You want to be able to maintain healthy boundaries for yourself. And part of that is just not telling everybody everything you know.
Well, it's kind of like you might not tell your child about your past history as a young man.
Right.
Because you don't really want them to struggle about, am I allowed to tell people that or not? So you may decide you want to tell them, or you don't want to tell them that you smoked pot when you were a teenager. I don't know. Right.
I'm not asking them to keep a secret if I don't tell them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
So again, it comes back to, if you don't want your child to tell something, then either don't share it or don't do it in front of them. Dad should have not shared that they were getting married, but he didn't have a choice apparently, because he's taking the kids to the beach, right?
Surprise. Yeah.
So Dad should have he should have said, I've already told your mom we're getting married, so don't worry about her feelings because she already knows. Or I plan on telling mom on Monday morning after we get back. Or whatever. But to say, we're going to do this and you're going to witness it, but when you get home, you're not allowed to talk about it with your mother, I think is where the foul comes in, right?
And to your point that Rachel handled it very, very well, I thought.
Yes, she did. And, the question, should I tell him? I think I've answered. Absolutely not.
No.
Let him come to you. And if he never does, I guess you'll find out organically at some point. When she signs her name on some permission slip that you happen to see, you may notice that they're married. I don't know.
Don't know.
Does it matter that much to know right away, I guess, is the question. No. And if not, No.
If she's tempted to tell him, it's because she thinks she has some influence over him teaching the children anything at all.
Yes.
And she has no influence over that. So she did right in the right response for the children, evidenced by the children felt so much better the next day. Your job is done. There's nothing else to do.
Yeah. And then the kids have learned that even if my dad says don't tell, it's safe with mom. And that's pretty powerful.
Yep.
All right. Great. Thank you, Rachel, for your question. And
yes. Thanks, Rachel. Good job.
Yeah. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, listeners, thanks for listening and tuning in to our podcast. If you're on YouTube, we hope that you'll subscribe to us and like our show. If you've listened audio, we want you to give us a 5-star review. And the reason to do that is so that we can be more available to other listeners. When you give us a positive review, more people can get help. So we'll see you next time. The information contained in this podcast is generic. It must not be misconstrued as constituting legal or psychological advice. Decisions relevant to any specific individual, family system, or case require the direct evaluation of skilled, child-centered professionals.